Good morning, Big Brother fans. It is Friday, July 18th, day 11 in the Big Brother 27 house. And we have a new head of household. We have an evicted person. We have special powers that have been handed out. I will try to cover those in the next little bit here and talk about last night's show. I'm a bit foggy this morning. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's a lot went on. Feeds didn't come back until after I'd gone to bed last night. And so I've done a very brief little catch up. I'm going to have to do a deeper dive and to figure out exactly what's going on. Plus, I don't think we really know completely, but I've got enough information to talk about it this morning and to give us a general idea. But I can't tell you, well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about targets and stuff like that. But let's get to the last night's show and then talk about power or the head of household, etc. So last night's episode went as expected in that the predictions worked out. They did the recap of everything. I don't think anything in particular new was learned on the show per se. We got down to the blockbuster competition, which was a word scramble again. They've done this before. They did this last year where they, scrambled words on big screens. This is in the basement. This is in the basement area below the main Big Brother house. They have a big stage area they've started using the last few years. So they have these big wall screens projecting words on them that were scrambled, and the three participants, which was Zay, Kelly, and Amy, they had to watch those scrambled words. They were in a room that was, or a stage setup that looked similar to the house with this, stuffy furniture, old mansion kind of a look, various objects lying around, and basically the words that were coming up on the screen were clues to an item that was available to them, and the first person to grab the item, run back to their position, and hit a buzzer won, as long as it was, of course, the correct item. They watched the word scrambles kind of. I never couldn't figure it out. I wasn't watching closely. I was like, well, I'll see who does stuff. And it appeared that and I haven't gone back and watched it completely, but from what people said and from what I kind of caught, it looked like Kelly early on grabbed an object, but then continued to walk around watching the words and stuff, while the other two didn't seem to make any big moves. And what it was is she figured out what it was. She grabbed the object she thought it was so that probably nobody else could grab it from her, or if they started to make her grab for it, she could decide to commit. Because, of course, if you commit and you're wrong, I think you got one guess and that was it. And so she eventually ran over and hit the button. It was a green emerald encrusted crown. And that was the right one. It lit up green or ding, ding, ding or whatever, and she put it on her head and kind of pointed to it and, posed a couple of times, and that was it. She won the blockbuster, and so she was safe. So it came down to Zay and Amy. Just like last year, they went back into the house after a commercial break. They were introduced as the winners. There was some huddling, a little bit of whispers. You could see Rachel going from person to person, kind of campaigning for Amy, getting some I think Adrian specifically, I think I heard him saying to maybe Rachel, promise my vote, kind of like I'm sticking with this. And it did kind of come down to a guy versus girl thing. I don't even remember the votes at this point, and it's not incredibly important in the end. It was a 9-5 vote to evict Zay. The biggest surprise vote of that batch to me was Riley voting to evict Zay. People seem to feel that Riley did it because he has a crush on Catherine. This is implied. I don't, and it doesn't surprise me. I was kind of like, why did he do that? Why did he vote? And I think it's probably because Catherine said that's how she was going to vote, and he wanted to be in line with her because he has a crush on her. As far as I know, isn't being reciprocated. But that was the vote, 9-5. I don't know. I may be missing something. People were like, that was a huge deal, the way that Riley voted, like he was the difference maker. But if Riley had voted to evict Amy, it would have been 8-6. She still would have been, it wouldn't have been a tie, a 7-7 tie, even that way. They had to get two people to flip to make it a tie. And then Vincent would have had to, Vincent would have had to break the tie and vote out Amy. So there was a lot of ifs there, and I don't think it was a shocking vote. It was a split vote, though, so there's always good. And I think there was a bit of confusion over who voted. I believe Keanu later on was trying to tell people that he voted out Zay, and people weren't buying it. But I have not verified that. Just based on the conversations I saw being reported, it sounded like he may have tried to say that, and people weren't believing it. But anyways, we've got Zay was evicted from the house. He went out and talked to Julie. I said it was a fairly, boring exit interview, or just, regular. Somebody took issue with me because he mentioned something about how when Julie revealed that Amy was the accomplice, Zay made a comment. So that kind of makes sense. She's the same age, and and a mother like Rachel, so they're kind of interchangeable. And somebody, and I don't remember who you are, no offense, and you probably won't even hear this, was kind of like taking offense, like that you can't compare Amy to Rachel, and it's like, yes, you can't. They match a similar demographic. No, Rachel has definitely got they're not the same personality or anything, but it is what it is. It did make sense to a lot of us that Amy was the accomplice. On the off chance she got found out and thrown out of the house, they still had someone about matching her same demographics in the house, and it was a woman, and it was an older woman, so that the age didn't get really skewed with Will being 20 years older than anybody else in the house. So anyways, show ended, feeds went on, or didn't come back, and the feeds did not come back. I don't know what time the feeds came back. I haven't even figured out the time yet, but it was late. It was late because, I was checking up until 2 a.m.-ish, Big Brother time, maybe even a little bit after. But they came back, and it sounds like, Dingo reported that, like, within an hour of the end of the West Coast airing, like by 11 p.m. Eastern time, Dingo reported that they hadn't even started the head of household competition in the house yet. So it was like, okay, it's going to be a while. We don't know where they installed this, the thing that they used. It was the black box, a variant of the black box competition, where, if you remember there, it's a completely dark enclosure, and they stumble around on the inside completing tasks or looking for things. So I believe it's an individually timed competition, although I did see a comment about one house guest leading another house guest to a location. So maybe they were all doing it at the same time. I'm not sure. I'll know more later today when I've had a chance to parse through some of this stuff, and I will come back this afternoon with a more detailed report with much more information, I'm sure. But we're getting you going for the day. In the end, Jimmy won head of household. So Jimmy's the next head of household. I don't think he's going after Rachel, but I could be wrong. I don't think so, though. He wasn't talking like it. It sounds like he wants to go after Keanu. But again, there's additional powers that were just doled out. So 3 powers were doled out in the process of this game. And the house guests seemed to know that there were 3 powers. Maybe they were told there's these 3 different powers available. And so I believe they know that 3 of the house guests won powers. Since they are 3 individuals, I guess you couldn't have more than one. In theory, they didn't have to tell anybody else they had a power. But guess what? We know who all 3 won the power. So I'm not sure if one of them was told out loud and a couple were whispered. I'm not sure. Again, I need to go back and look. I know that Mickey won a power, and that she told Morgan, and that's why we know. So as far as I know, only Morgan knows that Mickey has a power. And Mickey's power is some version of the coup d'etat where she can take over the head of household. And this is where, we're dealing with house guests retelling their powers to other house guests, and sometimes they don't get it right. So we'll have to go with what we saw Mickey tell Morgan until either she does multiple retells, or until she clarifies it, or until Sunday's show when they explain it to us on the show. It sounds like Mickey's power is some version of the coup d'etat, like I said, and when she enacts the power, and I don't know how long a time she has to enact this, it may be, a couple, 3 weeks or something, or 2 weeks, or it may be only this week, probably not only this week. If she enacts it, and when does she enact it, right? When does she enact it? I don't know. But whenever it happens, probably right before the nominations, the head of household has 3 minutes, I think, has some set time to ask questions and try to guess who the person is. So they don't reveal, for example, they wouldn't say Mickey has used her power. It would be someone has used this power and they will be the head of household if you can't guess who they are within the next 3 minutes. But I think probably the person only gets like one guess, right? So let's pretend that Mickey enacts the power. Jimmy will have, a few minutes to ask questions. This is why it would make sense if it was at the round table when they're doing nominations, and then make his guess. And if they say you're right, I don't know what happens then. Does that mean that, what does that mean? Does Mickey then safe from nomination, or is she now exposed and Jimmy can say, well, I'm putting you up since you tried to take my power away, right? That's what is the consequence for being guessed out as the power holder? And Mickey already told Morgan. Who does Morgan tell? This is when alliances get exposed, by the way. This is when we get a much better idea of alliances. So the fact that Mickey told Morgan, to me, means, okay, Mickey and Morgan are true, or at least in Mickey's world, they are true to one-to-one alliances. But we'll see. Other powers. Kelly has a power. Kelly's power sounds like, and someone already used this illustration, last year Leah had the opportunity to win a second veto, right, where she had to throw softballs or whatever, and she didn't do a good job, so she didn't get it. But it sounds like Kelly could have the opportunity, again, I don't know if it's this week or if it's at a time of her choosing, to win a second power veto in addition to the current power veto that's out there, or at the week in the weekend that we're talking about. Again, don't know the exact timings or anything, but that's this power that Kelly got. I don't remember. Oh, Kelly and Keanu told each other. So Keanu's the other one. I think Keanu may have told her, but I don't know if a lot of people know that Keanu has a power. That's possible too. So again, we're figuring it out. But that's Kelly's power, and we saw her telling Keanu about it. I don't know who else knows, but at least Keanu seems to maybe know. And then Keanu has a power. Again, I don't know who all knows he has the power yet, but Keanu's power is some version of having 2 chances to win, like double the opportunity to win the power veto. And this may be, again, tomorrow, or maybe at a week of his choosing, but whatever it is, maybe he can run a competition twice. Maybe he gets 2, I don't know. Whatever it is, his odds, he basically gets an extra slot. So he gets to maybe play a competition twice, or he gets to, I just don't know. Maybe he gets extra balls. Everybody gets to throw 3 balls at a wall, except for Keanu gets to throw 6. I'm just not sure. So we'll figure this out. But those are powers, and it seems like Jimmy must know that Keanu has a power, or somebody, or maybe, I don't know. He was talking about, or people were talking about Jimmy nominating the people that he has to have the powers to force them to use their powers to kind of get him out of the way. I saw that comment out there. So, again, I'll figure it out more as the morning, afternoon goes on, as I have time. And later today, we'll have a much better idea, although I'm sure it won't be complete, of what exactly is going on in the house. But we're approaching the weekend. This is when things are busy and crazy. Everybody's already in bed. They were in bed by the time I got up this morning. So it was, there was a very brief burst of time, maybe 2-3 hours, where all of this fell out, came out, and I need to go back and figure it out for myself, and then I will let you guys know what's up, right? All right, I think that is actually it for now, because again, I'm somewhat in the dark myself. So we're 1 week in, right? We're 11 days in. We've had one evictee. Oh, that was the other thing I thought about. I have no idea what's going on in have-nots. I didn't even look on the feeds to see who's in the have-not room. I didn't see any particular comments about have-nots. In theory, the have-nots should be over, or there should be new have-nots. But we have 16 house guests, and we don't have 16 beds as far as I know. So there may be people sleeping in the have-not rooms until have-nots are reassigned. Or have-nots may have been reassigned and I just haven't caught that yet. But whatever it is, I'll figure it out. I did see Rachel. I watched Rachel say this a few days ago, talking about have-nots. She told someone that have-nots were only the first 4 weeks. Now, I thought about that and I thought, I think Rachel's saying that because there's 4 spots. And she assumes after 4 people have been evicted, they won't do have-nots anymore. I don't think have-nots are only 4 weeks. But it's possible. It's possible. I think it's a random amount of time and we just don't hear about it. There's not some weeks and it is other weeks. And it doesn't matter if there's available beds. They still throw people in the have-not room even when there are enough beds for everyone. Even though that was the excuse that they used at the beginning of the show, that Rachel needed to go in the have-not room because they didn't have enough beds. That was a convenient storyline. But maybe it will be just the first 4 weeks. We'll see. I'll figure that out too and try to let you guys know. So we'll get all that all figured out and covered. And this afternoon I'll give you a follow-up with much more detail, more than likely, and we can carry on with our weekend. So I hope you all doing well. Appreciate you. To my patrons that are out there listening, I actually posted a poll on my Patreon site asking you guys a question, and because I'm curious of your thoughts. So if you are a patron, I think you got an alert that I posted a poll. So if you check it out, just vote in the poll if you want, or add your comment, and I'll look at it this afternoon or this weekend and address that. So there you go. Take care, everybody. Thanks for your support, and we'll talk to you this afternoon. Bye-bye.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.